Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. Not okay. I'm okay now. Hey, what's going on? It's Mitchell, your emo voice coach, and today we're going to be taking a look at I'm Not Okay by My Chemical Romance. The singer of My Chemical Romance is Gerard Way. I love this band. This is such a classic emo band, and he has such a unique sound, so I'm going to dive right in. We're going to take a look at how he's making the sounds he's making, how he sings with such intensity without tiring out so quickly, and then also how to make some of the distorted sounds that Gerard is making as well. Today, I have a live version of the song, but I also have an isolated vocal track. Let's take a look at the isolated vocal first.
Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. I never want to let you down or have you go. It's better off this way for all the dirty looks. The photographs your boyfriend took. Remember when you broke your foot from jumping out the second floor?
Okay. Right away, we're hearing some neat production techniques, and I always like to cover the production techniques first because I think it will help us peel back the layers to what's actually going on in Gerard Way's voice. So, from the get-go, we're hearing a good amount of reverb or tail or echo to what we're hearing in the lead vocal. See if you can hear that reverb.
I never want to let you down or
There's like a
have you go.
lingering
It's
sound.
better off this way for all the dirty.
It's almost just like a little bit of an echo. This reverb is not something that you would pay much attention to if you were listening to the fully produced track, but it does give Gerard's voice a little bit of an extra oomph. It sticks around a little bit longer. It lingers a little bit longer. And I just thought it's worth noting. Hey, we don't usually think about the reverb in the full mastered version, but when we isolate the vocal, you can hear some reverb there. We are also hearing some doubling going on.
Down or have you go. It's better off this way for.
Better off this way. We have a couple. Better off this way. There's 2 tracks of that, which is going to make it more intense. I think one of the hardest things about singing like Gerard Way is that his sound is so frantic that it's very, very easy to oversing. And because we have 2 takes or a chorus effect or a doubling effect in the recorded version, it's going to sound a little bit more intense than it actually was in the room when he was singing it. Now, he definitely is singing very intensely. Some people would say he's just shouting or yelling, and to some extent, I do think he is going full throttle. I don't really know, but by identifying that there is some doubling, this gives us a little bit of liberty to back off from the sound in a little bit. So far, his tone seems aggressive, it seems frantic, it seems theatrical. I like all those things. Those are all the things I want in my emo music. Let's take a look at the chorus.
Second floor, I'm not okay.
There's 2.
I'm not okay.
See if you can hear both those vocals.
You wear me out.
So one of the most distinguishing things about Gerard's voice is that he speaks in a very conversational or even colloquial way. In classical music or theater, we tend to use more specific piercing vowels like ah or ooh or e. There's nothing wrong with having a more pure vowel or a more specific vowel for a certain genre type, but in the context of this kind of music, Gerard takes those rules and he throws them away. There is not a lot of pure vowel in Gerard's sound, and not only is there not a lot of pure specific vowel, there's a lot of migration between vowels. He'll take a word like not. I'm not, but he doesn't sing I'm not, he sings I'm not okay. And this creates like a maniacal, almost crazy sounding effect in his voice. And throughout this video, I want you to pay attention to what his vowels are doing. I think that one of the reasons Gerard's sound is so unique is because his vowels are so chaotic that they're hard to replicate. It's almost as if he's improvising the way that he's using the vowels in the moment. Let's take a listen to the chorus again, and I want you to decide, do you think his vowels are more consistent, or do you think his vowels are all over the place?
The second floor, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. You wear me out.
Great. So it's not that they're never consistent. When he sustains a note like out or okay or okay, there is a fundamental A going on. But because we have two takes on this chorus side by side and they're slightly different, one is a little cleaner with the vowel and the other is a little bit more sloppy, it makes the vocals sound even more unstable. Take a listen one more time.
From jumping out the second floor, I'm not okay. I'm not okay.
You can hear one of those takes wavering a little bit. You can hear one of them traveling around the A vowel, A, while the other just kind of stays on that A. And I think this is a really awesome way to express yourself. When it comes to singing efficiently, vowels do matter, but artistic expression also really matters. I'm not sure what was going through Gerard Way's mind when he was recording this, but he definitely was going for a frantic sound, and he was able to achieve it. Let's go into the bridge of the section and explore more of this vowel business.
I'm okay now.
His ow is a little bit sloppy, but I think he's doing it on purpose. I'm okay now. I'm okay now. That's so much more exciting to listen to than I'm okay now. And it's not that there's anything wrong with what I just did. I definitely sing like that sometimes. But remember, My Chemical Romance is a very emotionally provoking band. They put out music that is meant to make you feel energized or unstable or excited. And instead of just singing harder, instead of just screaming more, Gerard decided to go the vowel route to create that instability. So if you want to sing more in this style, all you have to do is sing with uglier vowels. That is going to be a huge part of the tone. Now, I also think that Gerard is using a lot of a chesty sound, right? His natural way of yelling seems to be really working for him in this recording. Before we get to the registration, the mixed voice, the chest voice stuff, let's take a look at how his performance here differs from his live performance. Well, if you wanted honesty, honesty, that's all you had to say. Already really dramatic with the vowels. You see that right there? Yeah, I'm not, you know. He's not even really using specific vibrato. He's just kind of letting his voice shake around. Let's listen to that again. Not okay. Again, it's maniacal, it's intense, it's dramatic, it's good old-fashioned emo. One other thing I'm noticing about Gerard's tone in this is that his voice seems a little bit tired. And I'm not saying that in an insulting way. I actually think this makes him sound really cool. But at the beginning of the video, he talks a little bit, and you can hear that his voice is already a little bit raspy. Take a listen to this.
Hey, we're My Chemical Romance, and we want to thank you guys so much for voting for us.
Thank you guys so much for voting for us. Listen to that again.
So much for voting for us.
So much.
This song is
There's a little bit of fry creeping in.
I'm not okay, I promise.
You can hear that his voice isn't completely hoarse, and this performance is actually really strong. I've definitely seen videos that were not as strong as this one, so I'm not here to take a jab at what his voice is doing, but I also wanted to highlight that our voices are not going to be the same every day, and so our performances are going to differ. I think it's worth noting that Gerard's voice is pretty conversational. Usually I will talk about the tone in terms of where it sits front to back, high to low, what the tongue is doing. But I think in Gerard's case, he's just using his speaking voice and putting it on some pitch. Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. If you feel like you're trying to sing more speech-like and the sound is muffled or it's not clear enough, one thing that you can try is putting on this angry dog face. Like if you're like petting a dog, right? I'm the dog, so you're petting the dog, and then you start touching its nose. If it's a nice dog, it will do this playful thing, and it'll start to kind of like bite you a little bit. It's actually one of the cutest things ever. Rest in peace, I miss my dog. But if you do this, that is going to help your sound go from like, a little more muffled or breathy into a little bit more of a biting sound. And when we're singing emo, I think drama is important. So let's do an exercise that focuses our sound forward a little bit, that also wakes it up. When you're warming up your voice, there are a lot of good things that you can do, but one thing that is really helpful is gentle sliding of the voice. So we are going to slide on a third. Let's just do something like A, A. Give me a nice A, not A, but A. This doesn't need to sound good. It just needs to sound A. And we're gonna slide between these two notes as slowly as we can. A. Don't try to sound good. If you feel like you're singing too much, or you are having a hard time making this A sound, you might be singing a little bit too much. Just imagine that you're saying A, A. I can see myself in the camera and I feel like my jaw could be a little looser, so I'm gonna add a jaw wiggle on. This is one thing I love about learning how to sing and warming up, is that it's less about doing the best warm-ups and it's more about getting to know your body so that you can decide what your voice is needing on a day-to-day basis. Because remember, every day is a little bit different. Some days you're more dehydrated, some days you're more tired. Some days you ate something really spicy and your voice is a little bit more inflamed. You know, things change a lot from day to day. Now, I'm not gonna waste your time and go through the entire warm-up, but you can do this for a few minutes. You can go up. You don't need to do this very high. We're not trying to sing as high as we can here. We're just going to the middle of our voice and coming back down. If it's hard for you to match pitch, you can pick any two pitches. You could even sing the song a little bit on this really slowly, like, well, if you wanted honesty. Just sing something like that and then move it up and down. It doesn't really matter exactly how you do this. It just matters that you do this. And again, if you do have a hard time matching pitch, there are so many free resources online on YouTube that can help you get better at this. If you're still really struggling with this, I recommend reaching out to a coach who can help you understand pitch more easily. Doing exercises and running drills can be a little bit daunting if you're new to doing this, but it's less about getting the notes specifically, and it's more about understanding the general concept. We're just sliding our voice around. And in this case, we're doing it while we have our angry dog face. All right, we've done a warm-up. We've talked about crazy vowels. Let's talk about how to sing some of these high notes, as I do think that they can be challenging at times. All right, let's talk about the registration of this song. This song can be in a pretty wicked key depending on your voice type. As always, it's okay to sing this a little bit lower. I wouldn't go too low because we do need to be high enough in your voice for the distortion to shine, to lift off. We'll talk about that later. But this song starts on D4, or like this, the D above middle C. For a lot of guy singers or testosterone driven singers, this is a pretty tough spot in the voice. If your break is over this, fine, but this is in the middle of my first break. My voice wants to go here. And because we're already singing really intensely, or because Gerard is already singing very intensely, when people tend to sing this song in karaoke or they're just trying to sing it in his style, it's very easy to push too hard. We've gone over songs that are way higher than this, and this song is a really good example of how songs in your mid-range and how you sing in the middle of your range can really make or break your endurance, your vocal health, your stamina, etc. If you want to sing this song, the best thing you can do is focus on the medium and low notes of the song instead of the high ones. If you can nail the mids, the highs are going to be a breeze for you. Gerard starts off right away on this D.
If you wanted honesty.
Sorry, it's a C sharp, but it goes to the D right there. Well, if you wanted honesty, it's already in that treble zone. Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. If I try to sing this in my chest voice, I am in for a world of hurt when I go up. Now, if you're a person that has a more flexible voice naturally, usually that tends to be people with a little bit of a higher voice. I have like a medium low voice. You probably can sing this pretty easily, but if you're someone that's going to be singing for a long time or singing this on stage, it's still worth trying to lighten the vocal load. So if I try to sing this in my chest voice, well, if you wanted honesty, by the time I get to that third note, I'm already pushing too hard. If I do this, I could forget about that A4 or that top note, and we sing that note a lot. So we want to lighten up the way we sing here, and it's gonna seem a little bit weird at first because Gerard sounds so intense when he sings this. Let's rely on our vowels and our affect and our tone to create the drama instead of just pushing all the way through. I'm gonna sing this really lightly first until it feels good. Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. I never want to let you down or have you go. It's better off this way. Wow, it really doesn't sound very good at all, but that's okay. I want you to try this. Follow along with me. Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. It's okay if your voice cracks. We're prioritizing freedom. I never want to let you down or have you go. It's better off this way. If at any point you felt like there was a lot of squeezing in your throat or you couldn't sing high enough, it felt like you were hitting a ceiling, then this exercise is for you. First, what I want you to do is pretend that you are a baby owl. Let's just be a baby owl and stretch our voice nice and gently. Let's close things off. Now, let's be a baby owl down here. If you got through all of that without forcing any of the notes out, then you're totally ready to move to the next step. You can still try to move to the next step if that felt difficult or it felt too loud, but you're going to have a harder time. If you're someone that has a really hard time using your falsetto, the best thing you can do is reach out to a teacher who understands how to lighten up your falsetto for pop and rock music. If you go through a testosterone-based puberty, your voice is going to change in a very weird way, and your falsetto is going to get small, and in a lot of cases, it's gonna get ugly. And so what a lot of guys do is start to put a lot more weight onto their falsetto or their head voice so that it is closer in volume and power to their chest voice. And there's nothing wrong with this, but it's actually really counterintuitive in certain contexts where we're trying to lighten up the voice. I would never ask you to perform the song, "Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say." But the reason that I want you to do it lightly and be able to do it lightly is because if you can't do it lightly, you're not going to be able to lighten up your mix. When you go to mix, it's going to be either too chesty or it's not going to be flexible enough. And that's where you're going to start to run into discomfort, especially when we add on distortion. I've been making videos for like a month or two now in the long form way, and I talk about this in every video, and I feel a little bit like a broken record, but I have to remind myself that light mixed voice truly is the perfect partner for vocal distortion, especially in a melodic setting where we're doing two things at once and the voice is more prone to being overused or overworked. So make sure that you can do it like this first. We've done a lot of yodely things. We've done a lot of cracky things. Instead of trying to make our voice yodel, what I want you to do is just think about the freedom in your voice. So we've got let's turn that into a whoa, whoa. Let's add on just enough weight on our voice to the point where it starts to feel and sound a little chestier. So, whoa. Don't worry about what it sounds like. If you feel like it's going whoa, it's a little too far, so pull it back a little bit. We're just on the other side of falsetto. Now we're in a little bit more of a chesty place. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. I feel like the sound is living here, but it has qualities of this. And that's how I would describe mixed voice for rock. There are so many kinds of mixed voice. It's a color palette. Mixed voice is not just one thing. If you want to know the truth, chances are that we're actually almost always using mixed voice. But my goal is to get less chest in your mixed voice and more head in your mixed voice. Again, things are living up here, but they're sounding like they're coming from here a little bit. You're onto something. So now that we've got, well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say, that's enough. It might seem like you want to add on more weight right now, but I would wait. I would wait until we've got distortion. So for the first time ever, this video is the tone, registration, distortion, and then the registration again. We are going to revisit this after we get some distortion on. But before we do that, let's also make sure that we have the chorus down because that is also pretty high. So again, let's use our light falsetto. Just to the other side. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. It's okay if it's a little weak and wobbly at the top. I'm not okay. If you're really worried about it, you can always take your time and add a little more power on until you're happy with the sound. I'm not okay. I'm not even worried about Gerard's tone. I'm not singing very frantically. I'm just focused on getting this in my voice easily. Remember, the biggest red flag for a song like this is getting caught up in the emotion and singing too hard, too fast, and blowing out our voice. The form of this song is pretty repetitive. It's verse, chorus, verse, chorus. We don't really sing any higher than this. At the end, we do sing a little bit of a variant on this, but for the sake of time, I'm going to skip to distortion, and then we will revisit the registration with the distortion afterwards. One of the trickiest parts about understanding emo vocals or vocals in this genre is that the distorted vocals are often also melodic. So there's singing going on, but there's also distortion going on. If you're learning about distortion and you're starting to understand different concepts and sounds, but you're confused what an artist is doing, one of the best ways to actually understand what they're doing is to watch live performances instead of studio recorded ones. And the reasoning for that is because studio recorded sounds have a lot of effects added. First of all, they're EQ'd, which means certain frequencies are boosted and other frequencies are taken away. This can make one kind of distortion sound like a different kind of distortion, or it can just be confusing. You might be learning how to use melodic distortion one way, and when you do it, it sounds different than someone who did it in a multi-million-dollar studio. By looking at a live performance, you can also learn a lot about a singer's habits. Earlier, I talked a little bit about how Gerard's voice seems a little bit tired at the beginning because there's a little bit of vocal fry or creakiness or raspiness in his voice. And what's really interesting is that actually helped me understand his distortion a little bit better. When I've been doing melodic fry distortion workouts or I'm practicing my melodic fry distortion, afterwards, when I sing, there's a little bit of natural rasp in my voice. I can get rid of it if I try, but for like 20 to 30 minutes after, my voice will just naturally want to be raspy. And if I'm doing it enough, I'll wake up the next day and my voice will be a little bit static-like. And it's a really cool effect. No, I'm not doing any harm to my voice, but I've spent so much time trying to re-coordinate the way that I'm using my voice to sing the distortion that my voice is getting used to it and it's starting to sound similar. So the way that Gerard sounds just when he's talking at the beginning of this video reminds me exactly of what I've been feeling in my own personal life. And that has led me to thinking more about fry sounds in his voice. Now, fry and false chord, distortion, screaming are total buzzwords. There's nothing wrong with them, but I like to use them with a grain of salt. And if you're new to my videos, I want you to understand that what I'm doing is referring to sounds rather than what's actually happening on an anatomical level. The distortion that we're going to explore today for Gerard's voice is not just a vocal fry with singing. There could be some vocal fry involved, but it's more referring to the closure or the re-coordination or the recalibration of how our voice is compressing while we sing. So there are other ways that you can get to this sound. This is just one that I think is useful, but I just wanted to throw that out there because we're still learning how to talk about this stuff. And even if the science comes back and tells us one thing and we have terms for things in the future, I have a feeling that teachers are still going to disagree on the terminology. And so that's why I'm not really one to tell you this is what this is and this is what this is. I'm just gonna say it sounds like what I understand is like a more melodic fry distortion. That's not to say that Gerard's false folds are never involved here. I definitely think they probably are. With that aside, let's listen to this again.
We want to thank you guys so much for voting for us.
Do you hear how his voice has a little bit of static there when he says so much?
Guys, so much for voting for us. And this song is called I'm Not Okay, I promise.
Cool. So I am a musician as well. I perform. I would bet money that this was not their first take of this song. I don't know if they sang other songs in this session, but it's very, very common for singers in live sessions to do multiple takes if it's just being recorded and it's not in front of an audience. Maybe they didn't do other sessions, but maybe he had been using his voice a lot before they did this. Maybe he was just partying. I know that Gerard was a rock star and MCR was definitely living that rock star life back in the day. Who knows why his voice is a little raspy, but it's raspy because he's been using it, and he's been using it in an interesting way. The reason that I was so adamant about lightening your registration if you want to learn how to sing this and keep your voice healthy and fresh is because the kind of distortion that he's using involves a little bit of compression or closure in the voice. Here's what I mean by that. If you hold the note and then close your voice off with a glottal attack, this is what it will sound like. I gotta stop drinking soda when I'm filming these things, man. Now, what does that feel like? I do feel muscles moving. It's not necessarily my vocal folds that I'm feeling. We don't really have the proper nerves in that part of the voice, but we do have nerves around that area, and the larynx really isn't that big. So we do feel muscles closing things off. And when we go all of the sound disappears, which means our vocal folds are in an immobilized position. I like to think of this as fully closed. If our voice is fully closed, it can't vibrate in a way that's going to make sound. You can't talk through, and if you do start to talk, it's opening up a little bit. So that pressure is now being fought by our voice to make sound. So what Gerard Way's voice is doing when he is singing like this, potentially in addition to some other things, is tightening a little bit. It's still vibrating enough for him to sing and make pitch, but it's a little bit more rigid, and it's a little bit of an off-kilter position, so that the voice is going to rub in different ways and create the anomalies that sound like distortion to us. The reason that people call this melodic fry distortion is because you can prime it with fry, and that's what we're gonna do. Before we do that though, I want you to go like this again. And then I want you to slow it down. And just pause halfway. And then what if you pause halfway and then go 3/4? There's an infinite amount of combinations of how closed your voice can be. And that's why spending some time with closing and opening your voice is time well spent. Now, what if we do this with a little bit of fry on? Let's get some fry on our clean pitch first. You can hear my voice is pulsing irregularly. I'm about halfway closed. I don't know if I need to be halfway closed to sing this song yet, but we'll figure it out. Learning how to figure out how much you need to close things is kind of like a guessing game, and you kind of have to recalibrate it all the time. Let's try. You can start to hear some of the distortion. It might not work in your voice in the same way. You might need more closure. You might need less closure. One thing that can help if you're having a hard time hearing any distortion is to add a breathy sound. So, I suddenly have a lot more distortion in my voice. I'm not really pushing hard. I'm not going, I'm just going, we want a little bit of rubbing. You might hear more distortion from a lower sensation at first, but if you want to stay true to the My Chemical Romance sound, keep it more like this. A little less You could probably hear my voice is going a little bit, and that is just because my voice likes to go A lot of people that use distortion in all kinds of bands are not people that have studied distortion. They're people that have just guessed and guessed very well, or they watched videos, or they listened and they practiced and they tried new things. So I'm not here to say that like Gerard crafted his sound by understanding fry specifically in this way and closure, but he did decide, yeah, I'm gonna clamp down a little bit and see what happens, and it worked really well for him. So when I clamp down and do that, my voice wants to trigger other tissues, and I could probably isolate that if I want to, but I don't need to sound exactly like this, so I'm not going to worry about that. Right now, I'm just gonna worry about and what's hard about using this at first is that we don't always need that much closure. Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. I'm using very different amounts of closure throughout that phrase. Let's actually listen to what Gerard does as well. You can hear that distortion comes in and out. Let's listen to that again. Well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. He even starts with a little bit of this breathiness, which kind of just validates my point before about how breathiness can add a little bit of extra rubbing. So, well, if you wanted honesty, that's all you had to say. We're getting a sound that is a lot more similar to Gerard's voice here.
See, that's all you had to say. I never want to let you down or have you going bad this way.
Now, what's going on there? He sings a higher note and he clamps down a lot more. What he doesn't do is just sing harder. When we have closure in our voice, and again, I'm using this word closure less scientific and more of just a way to help you understand what could be going on in your voice. When we have more closure in our voice, the pressure underneath becomes greater because we're not allowing as much air through. And so we're going to feel more tightness. And if we just keep pushing, the voice isn't going to be able to handle all that pressure. And even though you might get the sound you're wanting, it's going to be a little lackluster, and in some cases, it's even going to tire you out. So what he's not doing is this. I never want to let you down or have you go, it's better. He's not doing that. What he is doing is, I never want to let you down or have you go, it's better off this way. All he did is slightly close the door a little bit more, and he kept a consistent pressure, maybe even backed off a little bit. If you're having a hard time using distortion on high notes in that intensity, see what happens if you just back off your power on the high note. So you can go from your normal power and just back off a little bit. See what happens. It might actually really surprise you. I can't stop thinking about this breathy element. Listen to this breath here. This is a very unnecessary breath in my opinion, but Gerard must have had a reason for taking it. I'm not all okay. Maybe that's stylistic, and I'm totally okay to be wrong here, but if it's not stylistic, that means he really blew out all his air pretty quickly. I don't know if it's stylistic. I kind of want it to be stylistic. Do you think it's stylistic, or do you think that he just ran out of air? Either way, it doesn't really matter, but it does have my gears spinning, and I am thinking about, you know what, having a little bit of in your might make your voice sound a little bit more Gerard Way-esque. The extra distortion you hear comes from the background singer who's doing a more fry-based scream. You can see him right here. It's also worth noting that this live performance is very different than the studio version in terms of the kind of distortion. In the studio version, we don't have any screams. We have yells, we have distorted sounds, but Gerard is definitely putting a little bit of a fry scream here. Here. I'm not, wow! I'm not, oh! I'm not okay! I'm not okay! We have that quieter and tighter fry sounding scream. Usually a hybridized or more compressed fry scream is going to sound a little bit tight in the context of a singer who has just sung a distorted note. This is very different than the way that a metal singer might use distortion. I'm not saying all metal singers are different, but in a lot of the hardcore, deathcore stuff that comes out today, the distortion has a lot less pitch to it. This definitely has an underlying pitch input signal. Even though we're not hearing a whole lot of pitch, it's really hard to go from using pitch underneath your distortion to not using it. Neither one of these ways are better than the other. It's just worth noting that Gerard's distortion is coming from the reference of, hey, I'm a singer, not I'm just a metal vocalist. I like this a lot. I like this a lot. Another line without a hook. Instead of singing it, he's just saying it. Another line without a hook. Another line without a hook. If you're having a hard time using distortion, try saying something like this instead of trying to sing it. All right, I love that. He didn't do that in the recording. Let's listen to the recording.
I held you close as we both shook for the last time. Take a good hard look.
Last time, take a good hard look. And here's where you start to hear a little bit more of that false chordy sound. It's not just it's take a good hard look. There is a little bit of that. Let's hear it live. For the last time, take a good hard look. Now, I have probably a little bit of a retinoids in there, so let's see if we can clean that up. He's got a nice take a good hard look. That might be a little bit too metalcore, so it's somewhere in between. Take a good hard look. 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 Into a microphone that's going to sound really big. Again, it might not even be worth calling this fry or false chord, because to me, it feels like a lot of things are happening. I feel like I'm singing, even though you're not hearing the singing happening. But if you get confused, go back to the closure concept. How tight are things feeling? How open are they feeling? Can you increase or decrease that tightness in very small increments? If you can't, just go back to this. And see how slowly you can close and open things off. If you just spend a few minutes on that every day, you will get better at this without a doubt. Now, before I said we were going to go back to the registration, because I want to prove to you that Gerard isn't just chesting all of this. He might really be giving it his all. I don't know what he's doing because I don't know him and I don't know what he was doing there. But I know that you don't need to give it your all to sound this way and to give a performance this convincing. Under that distortion, not okay. That's the pretty version. Not okay. You can hear the distortion starting to come in, probably because I've been doing a lot of fry exercises today. Not okay. Not okay. Never once did I go, not. It's all not okay. And that sound came from okay. Whoa is closer to whoa than it is whoa. And I hope that's something that you can take away from this video. All right, we covered a lot today. We talked about Gerard Way's unique approach to using vowels and how that makes the sound more dramatic and exciting. We talked about his registration and how nicely light registration or light mixed registration pairs with the kind of distortion that he's using, which also is pretty reminiscent of a melodic fry distortion, but it also has some other elements, and in your voice, it may have even different elements. Remember that all our voices are different, and not only are our vocal folds different and our space above the vocal folds different, but our additional tissue that creates distortion is also different. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all. Thank you guys for tuning in. I had a really good time with this one. Let me know who else you want to learn about in the comments, and I'll talk to you next time.